He came back from the Beagle in 1836, but he didn't publish on the Origin of Species until 1859. It wasn't just because he was lazy or didn't feel like it. He actually had a lot of good reasons for waiting a bit. These are kind of basic ideas of why he waited. The two big ones I want to point out, though, are the church and his family. A lot of people don't really realize that Charles Darwin was actually really into religion. What he was doing at Cambridge was actually studying to go into priesthood. That's what he was going to do. But when he was coming up with his theory of evolution and natural selection, it was a problem because at that time there was no such thing as extinction. All the animals that are here have always been here. They didn't change. They just stayed the same. But his theory basically was going to turn all that upside down. Another thing was his wife. Her name was Emily?
Emma.
Yeah, Emma. Okay, sorry. Emma was very religious, as was the rest of his family, so this was another thing. She was kind of asking him, please don't publish. What's it going to do to our family? How is it going to look? It's not going to be a good time. So then the question would be, why did he publish? There we go. So why finally publish? There was really one big reason that finally pushed him after about 20 years of research. And it was because of one guy kind of popped up out of kind of a little bit of nowhere for Darwin, because he was kind of not in the big picture of science in the city. And that guy was Alfred Wallace. Alfred Wallace, just a little bit on him and what he kind of did and how he came up with his theory on his own. In 1848, he actually went to the Amazon in South America with Henry Bates. And it was an expedition just to get a collection for the Natural History Museum. He actually wrote, I believe, 2 papers about his expedition out there, but he lost his entire collection because on his way home there was a fire on the ship and everything was lost. So after a couple of years, he saved up, and in 1854, he went to the Malaysian Islands. There, he studied lots of plants, lots of animals, kind of like what Darwin did on the Beagle. And this is actually where he came up with his own theory of natural selection, independently of Darwin. Darwin didn't hear a word, though, of what was going on until 1855, when Charles Lyell actually got his hands on Wallace's paper on the law which has regulated the introduction of new species. He kind of gave it to Darwin and said, hey, check this out, you should probably look into this. Darwin read it, but he wasn't really impressed, mostly because the paper was kind of like a first draft. It was kind of vague, it wasn't really specific on the laws of the theory, so he kind of just said, hey, you know, whatever, it's not that big a deal. But then, in 1858, he came out with, on the tendency of varieties to depart indefinitely from the original type. When Darwin got his hands on this, he was kind of like, oh crap, this is pretty close to what I got. Some of his reasons were a little bit different, but it was pretty close to the same thing. So he actually invited Wallace over, and he's like, okay, come on, let's talk about this, because I've been working on it too. What they eventually did was they kind of co-authored a paper, and they sent it to the Linnaean Society, which is basically a bunch of scientists sitting around saying, hey, look what we've done. So that's what they did, and pretty much the main reason why Wallace isn't really recognized is because the next year after, in 1859, came on the Origin of Species. So Wallace is pretty cool, but he wasn't really on the spot like Darwin was. And then, sadly, everyone has to die. Darwin finally died April 19th in 1882. He was 73, and he was buried in Westminster Abbey. And now we're going to turn it over to